Hello and good day everyone. So today we're going to look into business letter, how to display business letter according to introduction to document processing. So today's objective, I hope that by the end of this chapter, you'll be able to identify the parts of business letter and also to display business letter as according to the correct margin and also setting as according to document introduction to document processing. So before we go further to business letter, let us look into what is business letter. So it is an oldest form of business communication and is still the best choice, the best method used for a communication, for internal and also external communication between one organization with other organization. So the purpose of business letter is to represent the writer's ideas to the recipient, primarily used for corresponding with people outside and also inside the organization. So the primary purposes of business letter is to convey message and maybe to also ask question, to provide channel of communication between two or more person or individuals, and also to preserve a permanent record of a communication. So nowadays, most of the business letter being sent electronically, which is via email and also other electronic device. However, business letter is still crucial that you keep a record of business letter as an evidence and also proof of document for storage, for reference in the future, and also for other individuals. So before we go to business letter, first you have to know the parts of business letter. These are the items of business letter which you have to know, which you have to emphasize before we start composing a business letter. So for the purpose of document processing, these are the parts of business letter. The basic part of business letter that's supposed to be in a business letter will be the date, inside address or the receiver address, salutations or greetings, subject line, the body, the content of the business letter, complimentary clause, signature block, initial, and also enclosure. For the date of business letter, it is encouraged and advisable that we use the format of day, month, and year. Um, if the letter is dated 30th November 2021, so this is how we display the date for the business letter. The day, 30th, the month, November, and the year, 2021. The date will be typed in initial caps for the month, for the day in numbers, as well as the year. For the address, for the inside address or the receiver address, so normally most of the business letter there will be an address for the letter, for sure. So for the address of the letter, this will be the arrangement of how we display the address. So normally we will start with the recipient full name, those who receive the letter. So we type the recipient full name together with the courtesy title. For example, like Mr., Miss, Madam. If we have special title, for example, like Datuk, Datin, Haji, Hajah, Professor, Doctor. So it has to be accompanied with the name. So the courtesy title together with the full name. And then the professional title. This is the designation, the position in that particular organization. Maybe the managing director, maybe manager, maybe administrative executive, for example. So the professional title and the department name, if any, for example, like administrative department or treasury department or human resource department. The company's name, for example, like ABC Holdings Sdn Bhd or Gemilang Holdings or Sentiasa Maju, Sundaram Berhad. So that will be the company's name. And after that, the full, the mailing address, the full address of that particular recipient. Okay, uh, the address, arrange the address almost the same length, or if possible it should not be more than half of the page of the document. So um, we have to what we call arrange it nicely, the address has to be typed not more than half of the page, and then after that it will be the postcode, the city and the state. So this is how the example, how we come out with address, inside address. So the person's name together with the title, courtesy title, okay. This is the professional title. This is the department. This is the company's name. This is the address of that particular company, the postcode, the city, and the state. There should not be any comma at the end of each line unless it is abbreviation, for example, like Sdn Bhd or company CO period or limited Ltd period. Besides from period for abbreviation, there should not be any punctuation at the end of each line. However, in the middle of that particular address, to separate two information, we can insert comma, but not at the end of each line. Then we go to the next part um, where we will find salutation. So salutation, it is like the courtesy, the greeting, the courtesy greetings for the receiver. So normally for the receiver, we will always start with, for the salutation, we will always start with dear sir, dear madam. If they supply us with name, we can also um, type dear Mr. Haikal, for example, dear Puan Maimuna, for example, dear Miss Teresa, for example. Okay, so if the draft supplied with salutation, so we type as according to the draft. If there is no salutation supplied, so we come up with our own salutation. The salutation has to be according to the receiver, to the receiver's name lah, address. Okay, so it has to be, for example, like if it is male, then it will be dear sir. If it is female, then it will be dear miss or madam or missus. Okay, so it will be depending on the receiver. If it is not supplied, most of the question, the draft will supply you with salutation, so we type accordingly. The salutation will be typed in initial caps. For example, like Dear Sir, capital D, capital S. Dear Madam, capital D, capital M. If the name is provided, so this is how we provide the salutation for the business letter. For example, Dear Mr. John, Dear Ahmad Dhani, Dear Miss Farah. The subject line. So for the subject line, the purpose of subject line is to emphasize or to quickly identify to the receiver the subject of that particular correspondent. It give at least it give some idea on what the business letter will is about. Okay, so it is commonly typed in capital letter, and then there should not be any punctuation at the end of the line. Do not bold, and then no punctuation. So simply the subject line will be typed in all caps. For example, new computer store in Kuala Lumpur, invitation to launching company's ceremony. Okay, so it will be typed in all caps. The parts of business letter. So for the parts of business letter, the content, the body, the next part will be the content and or the body of the business letter. So normally the business letter will contain like 3 to 4 paragraph. Okay, so basically it will consist of 3 to 4 paragraph of the content. So the content itself will be typed in single line spacing. However, in between paragraph, it will be double space. For the complementary clause, so it is where we want to draw the attention to the receiver that we are almost at the end of the business letter. So for the complementary clause, it is the concluding part where it always start with yours faithfully or yours sincerely. So normally, if we don't really recognize the receiver, we will type yours faithfully. If we already familiar or we already knew the receiver, then we normally will type yours sincerely. However, depending on the draft, so we will type accordingly. Okay, so if the draft supply you with yours faithfully, so we type yours faithfully. Is the draft supply yours sincerely, so we supply yours sincerely. If you notice here, complementary clause will be typed in sentence case. So only the first letter will be capital letter. The rest of the letter will be in lowercase. Signature block. So the signature block identifies the writer of the letter by name. So the writer's professional title is also included in most cases. Professional title, for example, like Professor, Doctor, Dato, Datin, Haji, Haja. If if the if the um, if the writer, the professional title of the writer is Mr., Miss, Madam, so we will omit that. We will type straight away the name of the writer. But if the writer has professional title, Professor, Dato, Datin, Haji, Haja, so we will type the signature block, the name, the signer's name, together with the professional title, and after that, after the name, single line spacing, then we type the professional title. For example, the name of the person who will sign the letter and also the professional title. Next, we go to initial, typist initial. So normally the typist initial is to is it is one way for the writer to identify the person who composed the business letter. So in order for us to come out with initial, we only will type the first letter of the person who typed the letter, okay, the typist. For example, Muhammad Hafizuddin. So we only will type M, H, and also H for the last name. So for the initial, we will type the first name, the middle name if any, and also the last name, the surname. Okay, we only will type the first letter of the name, the first name, and also the last name. Omit bin binti, anak laki, anak perempuan. We only will take the name, the first name, and also the last name. Okay, for example, like Muhammad Hafizuddin bin Hashim. So the initial will be MHH, typed in lowercase. The other part of business letter will be enclosure. So the enclosure is to mention, to state that this particular. Next, we go to the next part of business letter, which is enclosure. So normally enclosure is to mention that there is an attachment or another document enclosed together with the business letter. So the enclosure will be typed after the initial. However, it is for the enclosure, it is not compulsory for a business letter because we only will mention enclosure if there is any attachment or any other document attached with the business letter. If there is none, so then we will not type enclosure. So let's move to the setting margin of business letter. So before we start, this business letter, assuming that we already have a pre-printed letterhead. So it is now that we will only compose the content, the body of the business letter. So that's why we don't have to come up or create a letterhead. So for that, the setting, the margin for business letter will be top margin 2.5, left and right margin 1.5 inch, bottom will be 1 inch. And then for the paper, then the paper will be, choose the A4 size paper and then make sure that it's always in portrait orientation. Our business letter will be typed in a simple Microsoft Word document. It is a one-page document. So if your letter falls to a second page, so you have to adjust the margin accordingly. For example, like you might have to adjust the left and right margin, or the top margin, or maybe the bottom margin. For the font style, we will use Arial font size 11. Line spacing, we will be using single line spacing. For in order for you to set the line spacing as single line spacing, first what you have to do is you have to choose the spacing. You go to spacing before after 0 0, and the line spacing change it to single spacing. Then we look into the format of business letter. So for the business letter, we have this for OBM 102, which is Introduction to Document Processing. We will be producing business letter in block format or block style. So it can be either open punctuation or mixed punctuation. So the difference between open or mixed punctuation is at the salutation and also at the complementary close. So if it is an open punctuation business letter, there will be no punctuation. If it is a mixed punctuation business letter, so there will be colon after salutation and there will be comma after complementary close. So this will be the business letter for this semester. So basically this is how the business letter will look like, and it will be in one page, a simple business letter, block style. So block style meaning that everything starts from the very left margin, and then everything will be typed from the left margin block. So block style, block paragraph, open or mixed punctuation. This is the example of mixed punctuation. If you notice here, so at the salutation, there is a colon after the salutation, and at the complementary close, there is comma after yours sincerely. All right, so let us transfer this into a proper document, and with that, we try one exercise. To understand better on how to display business letter, so we try one exercise which consists of all the parts of business letter from the date until enclosure. So we look at this one question. Before we start, always read the instruction very carefully because the instruction will consist of few additional information which we have to put in the business letter. So type the following letter in block style with open punctuation. Block style, open punctuation. Address this letter to Encik Izzuddin Ismi bin Ismail, General Manager, ID Izzuddin Enterprise, lot number 2056, Taman PKNK, 05200 Alusta, Kedah. The subject of the letter is TikTok marketing. The letter will be signed by Mrs. Lee Wong Chan, Marketing Officer. Use today's date. Proofread your work and make all necessary changes. Save the business letter accordingly. So this letter will be signed by Mrs. Lee Wong Chan, Marketing Manager. Right. So before we start, go through the question. So for this question, they have supplied us with the salutation. So we type as according to the salutation. And normally, in the draft, they will consist of various proofreaders mark. For example, like this one, indicating that you have to italicize the words. Insert yours in between promote and business. Close up demographic. Delete and replace require with need. Transpose this word, TikTok marketing, and you have to insert this one sentence at the very last paragraph. All right, so as we go through, if we see an obvious blank like this, it is understood that this is one paragraph. This is the another paragraph, second paragraph, another blank, obvious blank. So this is a new paragraph, paragraph number 3. We look forward to hearing from you soon. We'll continue at paragraph number 3. Thank you. Thank you will be paragraph number 4. So yours sincerely, so they have provided us with complimentary clause. XX is your initial. This is where we type the initial. And then enclosure. So for this document, we do have enclosure. Right. So now we transfer this to a proper Microsoft Word document. Right, so open your Microsoft Word, go to blank document. So before we start, I always encourage you to do setting the document before we start with any typing. So for that, first at the home page, at the tab, go to layout, go to page setup, and for the margin, change the top margin to 2.5 inch, left margin 1.5, right margin 1.5. Paper, change the A4 size paper to, change the letter size paper to A4 size paper. Then click OK. Now, for the paragraph, go to paragraph. The spacing, before after, make sure it is before 0 point, after will be also 0 point. Line spacing, change to single line spacing. Then click OK. And lastly, change the font style and type. So for that, we go to Home tab, go to Arial, change to font size 11. And this is where we start typing the parts of business letter, starting from the date. So today is 10 January. After the date, quadruple line spacing 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is where we type the inside address of the receiver. So this is the inside address. start with the courtesy title, then enter, then the professional title, then the company, then after that, the full address, so the address should not be more than half of the page. If possible, it should not be more than 3 inch from the ruler. So this is how we type the address. Then after the address, double space. So since this business letter already have provided us with citation, so we type as according to the draft. Dear Encik Izzuddin. If the question doesn't supply any citation, so we come up with our own citation, for example like Dear Sir. And since this business letter is typed in open punctuation, so there will be no punctuation after the salutation. After salutation, double space 1, 2, then we type the subject of the business letter. Type the subject of the business letter in all caps. After the subject, then double space again. Then this is where we start with the content of the business letter. So start typing the very first paragraph of the business letter until the very end of the business letter. But don't forget to correct all the proofreader's mark. In between paragraph, double space. So after you're done with the first paragraph, then double space, 1, 2, then you continue with the second paragraph. So do this for the rest of the paragraph. So every new paragraph, before we go to the new paragraph, double space. So after you reach at the very end of the document, so after thank you, then we type complimentary close. So thank you, after thank you, double space 1, 2, then yours sincerely, YOURS, sincerely. Then after yours sincerely, quadruple line spacing, 1, 2, 3, 4. So look at the instruction. So the one that will type this, that will sign this business letter, will be Mrs. Lee Wong Chan, Marketing Officer. So Mrs. Lee Wong Chan doesn't have any special title. So we omit Mrs. So we just type Lee Wong Chan. And single line spacing, there we type the professional title. She is the marketing officer. After the complimentary close, then double line spacing again, 1, 2, then type your initial. After the complimentary close, double line spacing, then type your initial. So for example, like my name, Encik Daong, so I will only will type the first letter of my name. my first name and also my last name, AED. So type the initial in lowercase. Then after the initial, since this business letter consists of enclosure, so double space 1, 2, then type enclosure in initial case. Normally when we enter after the initial, the first letter will capitalize. So adjust it back, turn it back to lowercase, change it back to the lowercase, right? So this is the business letter block style open punctuation. So this indicator is crucial to check the spacing. For the quadruple line spacing, 3 paragraph marks in between the line. For single line spacing, there is no paragraph marks in between line. For double line spacing, there will be 1 paragraph marks in between line. So quadruple line spacing, single line spacing, double line spacing. The content of the business letter type in single line spacing. In between paragraph, double line spacing. Before complementary clause, double line spacing. After complementary clause, quadruple line spacing. Then the signature block, the name, and also the designation. And after the signature block, double line spacing your initial. Then after initial, double line spacing enclosure. If the business letter doesn't consist any enclosure, so we will stop until initial. So this is how the business letter looks like without enclosure. If the business letter consists of enclosure, then right after initial double space, then type enclosure. If your business letter, if it's a mixed punctuation business letter, so right after salutation, after Dear Encik Izzuddin, then you type colon. At complementary clause, you will insert comma. This is for the format of mixed punctuation. Since our questions is open punctuation, so there will be no punctuation after salutation, and there will be no punctuation after complementary clause. So I hope this made it clear to everyone to display business letter according to the format of introduction to document processing. For the one that you have to emphasize when it comes to business letter will be compulsory part that should be in the business letter will be the date, inside address, salutation, subject, the content or the body of the business letter, which consists of various perfidious mark, complementary clause, signature block, initial, and there might be enclosure. Right. So I hope that this will help in displaying. This will help you to display business letter according to the correct format and also in the correct with the correct setting and items. Right. So thank you.